What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here, PackersNews.com, live on Facebook, late afternoon on Monday, July 16th. The Green Bay Packers have produced their annual report. News breaking a little while ago this afternoon. Our Rich Ryman reporting at PackersNews.com. Read off the numbers here for you. The Packers, $454.9 million in revenue. That's a $13.5 million increase. Expenses were up to $420.9 million. That's a $44.8 million increase. National revenue, $255.9 million, which means teams got over $250 million just for existing. Needless to say, it is only a snapshot of NFL finances. It is one slice of a 32-piece pie. Needless to say, though, the NFL is doing quite well, as are the Packers. Clearly, these numbers will be dissected and talked about, and you can read Rich's piece. There's a link right there in the comments. The Packers, over the years, have provided less and less info. They used to have line items where you could really kind of break things down, where that money was going, how it was being used within the organization. Now things are much more 30,000-foot view, the information that they do provide, which is very little. But make sure you check Rich's piece out. I'll answer a lot of questions you might have. Obviously, I'm not a numbers guy, but Rich is all over it. So be sure you're looking at that. On top of that, of course, we inch closer to training camp. The shareholders meeting where they will discuss this financial report is a week from Wednesday. I'll be in Green Bay for that. And the day after, camp will kick off. So a lot of Packers stuff right around the corner. As usual, I wanted to jump on here on the old Facebook and talk to you fine folks and see what's on your minds in this hot July afternoon. Hello to everyone jumping in the comments. Great to see you guys. Matt, good day. Hope you're well. Josh, great question. Thoughts on Montravius Adams' second year? I'm very intrigued to see what he looks like when they put the pads on, assuming that he's fully healthy. Now, we all know last year he hurt himself on the very first day of padded practice. He was fine those first 2 days when the pads weren't on, and then hurt himself that first padded practice, and basically from then on his rookie season was a wash. I'm very interested to see what he looks like on the interior of that line. When he was drafted, not just the scouting department, not just the coaches, but a lot of his fellow players were talking up his interior rush, his ability to get upfield quickly. Obviously, that was, those guys were looking at him in the spring. They weren't in pads. It's only so much you can really show in that environment. But a lot of the guys were impressed. So I'm very curious to see. I think, the sky's the limit for the kid. I think his tape in college is really promising. But the NFL is littered with plenty of guys who looked great in college and then did nothing in the NFL. So he's a great unknown. And, Mike Pettin hasn't talked a whole lot about him. He was asked about the defensive line, in general earlier this spring, and he kind of tacked Adams' name on at the end of his answer. I don't think the Packers really know what they have there yet. But once those pads come on, it's going to be interesting. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. Let's see what else we got here. Allison, or a rookie wideout to start across from Davante in week 1. I've said often here, I think, it's going to be hard. Any rookie will be hard-pressed to displace Geronimo Allison, not just because, they're going to be fighting for their roster lives, having to contribute on special teams, having to learn the offense, etc. But to get Aaron Rodgers' trust out the gate, that's a tall order. And that's something that Geronimo Allison has solidified very, very well. Boyd thoughts? Not too many yet. I really need to see him in action a little bit more than, running around in shorts for a day or two. We won't be able to pay Rodgers and Bell. I love Packers fans talking about going and getting LeVeon Bell. What part of the Packers' recent past has told you that they're going to go pay top dollar for a free agent running back? Come on, people. Do you think the Brewers get Manny Machado? Phil, I don't care. What happened to undrafted cornerback sorry, they go too fast. Gmo ready? I agree, Michael. How's Clay Matthews? We'll find out in a couple weeks. Obviously the nose will be the first thing everyone looks at, and I'm sure the Packers will want to get his availability out of the way early to get the story out of the way. But all the reports around the incident from the softball game indicated that he will be ready to go and shouldn't have any kind of setbacks leading up to week 1. Great point about the upcoming new CBA affecting Rodgers' contract talks. Well, it's not really a point. It's more of a question. If anybody who doesn't follow me on Twitter, I just posited earlier this afternoon, I do wonder how much the looming end of the current collective bargaining agreement possibly could be throwing an extra hiccup or two in the negotiations between Rodgers and the Packers. If you missed it this morning, make sure you check out Morning Buzz. We have an excerpt from and link to Peter King's interview with Aaron Rodgers, where he did talk about his contract, and there wasn't much news there. There wasn't much. He didn't really say much of anything that we haven't heard him say already. But I do wonder. There was that quote from the general manager for the Falcons who had mentioned that he ran into Aaron Rodgers at an airport earlier this offseason, and Rodgers had joked with him, can you get Matt Ryan signed already so I can move on with my life? The illusion being, as soon as Ryan's contract was done, that domino would fall. That would be the last thing they needed to get in place league-wide so that Rodgers and the Packers could finally solidify their deal. Clearly, the Matt Ryan deal has come and gone, and by all accounts, the Packers and the Rodgers aren't exactly inking anything anytime soon. Player you're most looking forward to seeing coming out of the draft? If you're talking about this draft class, probably, it's a good question. It's probably a combination of Equiminius St. Brown and Jair Alexander. I think both of them are unique athletic talents. I think Alexander is in line for a lot of playing time. But we'll see. Sometimes, every season there's a guy or two who make a jump, like maybe an undrafted guy who you didn't really have your eye on. So we'll see. Austria checking in. I think the NFL, what? Oh, you guys, some of these comments are great. Any insight on the players' feelings about having Philbin back? I can tell you the few guys I've talked to a couple guys along the offensive line, and a couple other guys in the locker room, so to speak. I've heard nothing but great things. People seem very excited. Guys seem to really love him, playing for him. Think he's super smart. If anybody has any ill words to say or ill feelings, I have yet to encounter them. Hi from New Jersey. What's up, Charles? How you doing? Has Beagle put on some weight? I don't know, Matt. Well, we'll have to see. The only kind of access we have to him is through social media, and I haven't really been looking. Eddie Lacy at defensive tackle. That's almost as good as Raji coming in and playing quarterback or whatever it is we guys throw up here every day. Will Rodgers have the trust in the new receivers like he did with Jordy? Not initially. That is definitely something they'll have to earn, and that's something we've talked about here in regards to, Geronimo Allison. One of the reasons he stuck around like he did, and he didn't make the initial 53 his rookie year as an undrafted guy, but he did make the practice squad, and a big part of that was that he showed that he had gotten in his playbook and knew all the adjustments and knew everything he was expected of him once he got off the line of scrimmage, and he was reading things the way Rodgers did, and he was where he was supposed to be. So that's a tall order for these guys. I mean, it's like going from black and white to color. These guys are Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, and they have just landed in it. They've got to adjust. And I think the guys who show that mental acumen early on in camp will be given more opportunities with QB1. And that's your ticket to the playing field, and that's your ticket to playing time. Concerns about Davante's concussion history. It's hard to really quantify just because every player is different, every head is different. You talk to any medical professional, they all say the same thing. There's no way of comparison shopping, so to speak, when you look at one player versus the other. You can only look at that player, and in Davante's case, he seems, now this is just observation from the outside. We don't have access to the medical, but he seems to recover pretty swiftly from these things. He's never been missed a significant amount of time because of it. And you look at that hellacious hit he took in the Bears game, and he was back for the Cowboys game 10 days later. So, and that's after many extreme vetting / testing that they do. So do you worry about it? I think it's only natural that you're thinking about it because he's had a few, but the Packers invested in him, and they have more medical knowledge about him than we could ever even approach. So the Packers are going to obviously line him up as wide receiver 1, and if he takes another hit to the head that knocks him out, we'll see how he progresses afterwards. Are we going to have a run game this year? I would think so. I think they found quite a few things that maybe they hadn't explored before last year when Hundley was quarterback, obviously out of necessity in some parts. But they found some power stuff, some angle stuff. They had David Bakhtiari in the move, something we hadn't seen a whole lot of before last year. So you combine that with Aaron Rodgers, his ability at the line of scrimmage to get them in and out of things. I think they could have a real lethal weapon there, so to speak. What is it with all the Raji jokes? It's a long inside running joke that probably is well past its prime at this point, but the commenters really like to keep it up. Predictions for Dean Lowry. I think he'll see a decrease in his playing time. I think that's probably a given, considering the rising star that is Kenny Clark, Mike Daniels, a Pro Bowler, and now the addition of Muhammad Wilkerson. I think Lowry will still be useful. He still has use, but I think you'll see a definite decrease in his time on the field. Shouldn't Cobb be in the prime of his career based on age? Sure. He's the youngest player to ever score a touchdown in the NFL. The first player born in the 90s to score a touchdown. And, who's to say he's not in his prime? I thought he was playing really well last year prior to Rodgers going down. He's had some nicks and bruises, and he's been held out of some games due to injury, but when he's on the field with 12, he's been productive, especially last year. So we'll see. It's still funny. All right, man. The Raji jokes, that's all on you guys. Whatever gets you through the day. What will the score be in the Jags-Pack Super Bowl? I don't know. You're going to have to ask Tony Romo on that one. Do the Raji here. And Mark, not for all the tea in China. Who's your pick for the player with the most interceptions this year? Tramon Williams. Not even a hesitation on that one. It seems the NFL media is far less optimistic on our running backs. Well, yeah, that's all. That's always the way it is. It's mostly because of fantasy football, but people look at box scores and look at numbers, and then they kind of dismiss, the talent that's there when the talent is actually quite abundant. People are just producing content for 32 teams, and if they don't know the name, they don't remember big highlights, they're kind of dismissive and downgrade it. That's just natural, and that's why you should always be checking PackersNews.com for the real skinny on the Packers. Who is potentially the best of the 3 tall wide receivers? I'm going to say Moore or Valdez-Scantling. Does Raji have the moves to replace Jordy? Jeff, no doubt. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump, but thank you for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. Make sure you're checking PackersNews.com for all the latest, including the story that's linked here in the comments. That's everything you want to know about the release of the financial information, the annual tradition, where we all pour over it and really don't know what the heck we're looking at, other than Rich. He knows. That's why we have him write it. That's why he's really good. All right, everybody. I'll talk to you tomorrow, barring any other breaking news overnight. In the meantime, make sure you're checking our opponent previews. Positional previews will start up tonight / tomorrow. Anything and everything you need to know about the Packers, it's all there. PackersNews.com. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good night.